I'm Mark Golub, and in the news is an interesting sidebar on the upcoming Israeli elections, an endorsement on Israeli television of Benjamin Netanyahu by Donald Trump. Take a look at Donald Trump's endorsement of Bibi Netanyahu.
My name is Donald Trump, and I'm a big fan of Israel. And frankly, a strong prime minister is a strong Israel. And you truly have a great prime minister. In Benjamin Netanyahu, there's nobody like him. He's a winner. He's highly respected. He's highly thought of by all. And people really do have great, great respect for what's happened in Israel. So vote for Benjamin. Terrific guy, terrific leader, great for Israel.
Now, I can only imagine that those of you who support Mr. Netanyahu and those of you who are fans of Donald Trump will basically approve of the Donald's television endorsement of the current prime minister. And I imagine those of you who are critics of Mr. Netanyahu or who are Donald Trump detractors might disapprove of his spot running on Israeli television. So how did the endorsement come about? And why did Donald Trump insert himself into an Israeli election? Well, for some answers, we are very pleased to have on our phones right now the chairman and president of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump. Donald, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Donald, you put an ad on Israeli television. There are many American Jews who are going to say, why do you think it would matter what an American Jew, who's not even Jewish himself, I know your daughter is converted, but you are what we call an Ohev Yisrael. You are a lover of Israel, but you're still an American. Why was it important for you to put a spot on endorsing Benjamin Netanyahu?
Well, I am a lover of Israel, to start off with, and have been for many years. In fact, years ago, during the Israeli Day Parade, I was the honoree.
Yes.
And it was a very dangerous time. A lot of people said, oh, you can't do that, because that was a very, very dangerous time, if you remember, Mark.
I do.
And I said, well, if it's dangerous, it's dangerous, but I'm the honoree. So I marched proudly down Fifth Avenue as the honoree. I've just always had a great relationship with Israel and with people that come from Israel and people that love Israel.
Yes.
And it's been, just outstanding. And I was called by Bibi and his people, and who I think a tremendous, really just fantastically about. And they asked me whether or not I'd do a ad or a statement, and I said absolutely. And they sent a crew in from Israel, and they taped me making a statement. And I think he's a great man, a great prime minister, and he knows what's happening.
How often have you been to Israel, Donald?
Twice.
What was your sense of it when you were there?
Amazing, because you look at areas around it and you see what's happened there, and you look at Israel, and it's just a magnificent place, just magnificent.
There are a few people in the world who are as recognizable as you, and I don't mean to embarrass you, it's just the reality. I assume there are, in fact, Israelis who know you well, and maybe it will have some, a little bit of whatever endorsements mean, Donald, and you've been doing this a long time, you know better than I, but there is, every now and then, some real advantage to an endorsement from somebody who is known. I assume you're hoping that there are enough Israelis who regard you with high esteem who will in some way be glad now that you are supporting their candidate, or maybe you will even urge them to vote for Netanyahu. I'm assuming that was part of why you said yes.
Well, that is why, and they've asked me to do it. This was not something that I would do without being asked, because I don't know. Is that positive? Is it negative? You tell me, Mark. Okay. So, there are a lot of people that do like me, and a lot of Israelis like me, and because they know my stand, and I've been a supporter for years as opposed to, from last week, like so many others. And when I was asked to do this for Bibi, who I just think, I know him, and I just think he really gets it. He's smart. He sees what's happening, and he's alerted to dangers. I mean, a lot of people don't see the dangers lurking around the corner. He really does. So, I'm sure he's going to do fantastically well with or without my endorsement, but he did ask me to do it, and I agreed to do it.
As you look at the way the American administration has been dealing with Israel, pro and con, good and bad, Donald, how do you assess it?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised. I don't think they've been very pro-Israel, and I think it's a little bit surprising and shocking, and frankly, Israel has a problem with that, and I was surprised to see that the Jewish vote was so strongly in favor of Obama, I guess 70%.
Yes.
And that's, a pretty surprising number because I would say that his policies have not been very pro-Israel. So, you have to take what you get, and that's the way it is. And I think most people see that. Most people that understand Israel see that.
It's interesting.
And I'm not sure the Israeli leaders are very happy with the administration.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Donald, within the American Jewish community, there is a real divide. There are those who are very, very supportive of the state of Israel in its battle with the Palestinian and the Arab world, and there are those who feel that Netanyahu has not done enough to push the peace process forward. Very often, you have been able to look at a problem and come up with sometimes a very unorthodox but practical solution. Do you ever look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and say to yourself, oh, I wish only the following were done?
Well, I do, and the biggest problem that you have is you have so many years of absolute hatred and distrust, and it is a very tough one. In fact, I'll sometimes use that as an example. If you can solve that one, you can solve any problem.
Yes.
Because it is definitely deep-seated, Mark, and it is, it's a tremendous lack of trust, and I'm talking about on both sides, but it's a lack of trust, and it's just hatred for so many years, and it's a tough one to solve, but eventually I really believe it will get solved and hopefully properly solved. To come up with a solution that's not a really good long-term solution is not the answer. You've got to get it solved properly.
I appreciate the perspective, and I appreciate everything you've done on the American scene, Donald. At one point, I hope you'll let me come by and sit with you in person for a little longer interview. I would love to know some of the other ideas you have and your experiences, again, with both the Jewish people and the state of Israel. But right now, I wish you what we say in Hebrew, Kol Tuv Hatzlacha, all good success to you, and I thank you for this moment on Shalom TV.
Well, thank you very much, Mark.
You
just take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Shalom.
Donald Trump explaining why he cut a spot endorsing Benjamin Netanyahu in this coming Tuesday's Israeli elections. And it's hard to imagine that Donald Trump truly knows about or understands who the other candidates are in the upcoming Israeli elections and what each candidate stands for or what the issues are. And Donald Trump said it quite honestly. He's a friend of Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi asked him to do the spot, and so he did it. And personally, I don't think a Trump endorsement is going to matter terribly much to Israelis. But what I do think the endorsement indicates is the extent to which Donald Trump feels connected to Bibi Netanyahu and to the state of Israel as a whole, and that he would take time out to join us here on Shalom TV reflects his feelings for the Jewish community. And regardless of where one stands on the American political scene or whom one hopes will win in Tuesday's Israeli elections, I think we can all appreciate that Donald Trump would spend a moment with us here on Shalom TV. I also hope you'll watch my In the News conversation with Jerusalem Post columnist Izzy Liebler, who offers a comprehensive overview of the various parties running for seats in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. My thanks to our producer for this edition of In the News, Tisha Bader, who of course anchors the Shalom TV News update each day. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.